Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Cultivating Compassion Education series presented by Compassionate Care ALS. We're fortunate today and grateful to have Rodger Kamenetz back with us for another program. He was with us in April, did a great something that I thought was quite helpful, and we're happy to have him back. He's going to be doing healing visualizations today. And the background on that is that Rodger had an encounter with ALS in 1995 when Maury Schwartz, who many of us know from Tuesdays with Maury, asked to see him. He was just back from studying healing visualizations with Colette Abulker Muscat. Maury and Rodger did a visualization together. That practice with images eventually led him to create natural dreamwork. Abulker Muscat's work uses images to go deeper into feelings, to find the medicine within them. Rodger will offer some exercises that he hopes will be useful. Visualization puts us in touch with the spontaneous creative power within each of us, which we are most aware of in our dreams. The feelings in images are medicine because they take us out of our reactivity and restore us to a life of feeling. So thank you, Rodger, for being with us today. And we also have our founder and CEO, Ron Hoffman, here today. So Ron, welcome, and please say hello.
Yeah, thank you, James. Rodger, thank you for being here. And most importantly, thanks to everyone for showing up on your Sunday. I see a whole lot of new faces that I haven't seen before, or a lot of new names. So thank you very much. Rodger, I very much appreciate your work. Rodger came to us through Brenda Fox, so I'm going to turn it over to Brenda. And Brenda has been working with us for many years as our grief and bereavement liaison. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Brenda, just say a few words.
Rodger, it's great to be here. And I have read Rodger's work. Thank you, James, for all the work you do to put this speaker series together. So we have a really deep and beautiful ocean of support for our families. I just want to say really briefly that I've worked with Rodger doing natural dream work as almost as long as I've worked with CCALS on staff. And this work of converging our dreams, our emotions, and our waking life and our service in the world has been a profound journey. And bear witness also to the presence of Mary Jo Hyan, who worked with us and doing dream work with hospice. And she was my introduction to Rodger. So I acknowledge, Ron, the way your work with CCALS started as a dream and started as a dream for the retreat center and serving families with the highest level of care in the ALS trek and journey. And I really bow to the fact that my father was diagnosed and died with ALS in 2010, and he continues to be a guide and a guardian for me in this work and also in my transformation that I'm convinced now more than ever continues all the way through our final breath. And so these visualizations and these practices of deepening our feelings and our dreams, I really believe lead us to the highest and best leave taking or completion of this lifetime. And so I'm grateful for all of the presence of all of you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Of course.
Rodger.
Yes, here I am. Thank you, Brenda, so much. Thank you, Ron, for dreaming and creating this really important service for so many people. I really appreciate what you've done. Not everybody can put things into action, so I applaud you for doing that. James, I always enjoy working with you, and you're so easy to talk to. Sometimes we talk too much, but it was always fun. And so I'm always happy to be here with you guys and to say hello to everybody who's here. I'm going to divide this into two parts to make it a little easier. So the first part will be essentially around what are called spots of time or places in memory. And then the second will be the visualizations. I feel that might help us ease into the practice. So the other day, my dream student, I won't name her, but She had a dream, and there was an object in the room that she named as a wooden contraption. So I always love that when you sort of see something that you wouldn't expect. And she said also you could use that contraption to travel back in time. So, and the next thing we saw was her grown daughter as she was when she was a young child, smiling and playing on the floor, and it brought her joy. Um, when we work with our dreams, they can just touch down into deep feelings with images in a very simple way. It's our minds and preoccupations and anxieties that make dreams complicated. But when you reach a certain point, you can get right to the feelings. Well, I got really puzzled about this contraption, and I realized we all have one, and it's called imaginative memory, rich, deep memory that can gather a moment so you can feel as if it were happening right now. Imaginative memory abolishes time. We don't have to be trapped in the present. And so, if we use the wooden contraption, we can travel out of this time to the past. And what we're looking for is certain memories that sustain us and give us strength or joy or a sense of loving or being loved, but also more difficult feelings. We need all of our feelings. Like you wouldn't want to have a piano that only had white keys and no black keys. So we need all the feelings, the high and the low, the dark and the light. So we need to feel our fear. We need to feel our pain. And the whole work that I try to do with dreams is to help people feel their feelings and to live in their feelings instead of being in their reactions. And so, in thinking back on what would be a spot of time, so Wordsworth says it in kind of elegant language that there are in our existence spots of time, and he says we can repair to them as to a fountain and drink from them. I love that word repair to them, so we can repair ourselves and we can go to them when we need the support. And each of us has these spots of time. So I'm going to give an example. When I was in sixth grade, I had a little white hair that grew very long out of my cheek. I know it's a little weird, but I really like that hair. It made me feel special. In fact, I had a special name for it. I called it my wisdom hair. And sometimes in class, I was kind of fooling around with it while I was thinking and pulling it out. And I really thought, wow, nobody else has this. This is amazing. So one day, my teacher, Mr. Weinstein, walked up to me and yanked the hair out. Wow. So first there was a brief physical pain, but that was only a moment. But the feeling of pain underneath, not the physical, but the emotion was, hey, you just took over my face. That's my face, and I think, of course, he had no idea what the image of the hair actually had come to mean for me, the sense of being kind of special and having a special gift. And so that feeling, I can go back to that moment right now and just feel the yank and feel my anger, really, that he did that. And that also my awareness that he had no idea what he was doing. He didn't have a clue, which was also kind of a lesson, wasn't it, about how we learned about our relationships. So most of you know the name William Wordsworth. He was a romantic poet, but he also, I view him in the Seeing Into the Life of Things as a very ahead of his time intuitive psychologist, very introspective, constantly contemplating and meditating on his experiences in nature and on his feelings. He had a lot of sadness in his early childhood. His mother died when he was 7, his father a year later, and the children were split up and sent to school. And, one of the things that happened one day was that he was walking along the lake Esthwaite, and he saw a pile of clothes, but no one came to retrieve them. That's the way he said it. And the next day, people were firing cannons over the lake, and then this body was pulled up, and he said that he saw the ghastly face. doesn't sound like a fun memory, but the point is, it affected him deeply, and given the context of his life, the loss, this stayed with him. And that may seem strange. Like, why would you want to go back and remember a moment that terrified you or that seemed painful? And the reason is that it's not the people tend to sort their feelings out. They've got good feelings they want to feel, and they have bad feelings they prefer to ignore. It really doesn't work that way. If you inhibit your capacity to feel any feeling, you inhibit your capacity to feel all of them. And so often what this kind of work does is help us recover feelings we may not want to feel. So another, what he called a spot of time, he tells a number of them, and he says, and this I think is relevant to what we're going to do, that most of these were in childhood. Most of these spots of time that he wanted to remember were from childhood. Before maybe we got so sophisticated and so complicated and so anxious and so busy that we no longer knew how to experience our lives in our bodies and in our feelings. So in one episode, he was ice skating with a whole gang of kids. I think he was about 10. And all the kids were out there shouting and skating together, running into each other, making noise. He said, not a voice was idle. Not a voice was idle. And with the din, the cliffs rang aloud because the lake was surrounded by cliffs. So the din of all these children's voices, he heard it echoing in the surrounding cliffs. The leafless trees and every icy crag tinkled like iron, while the distant hills into the tumult sent an alien sound of melancholy. Wow. So then he goes on, while the stars eastward were sparkling clear, and in the west, the orange sky of evening died away. So we can see already how sensual his memory is, the colors, the sounds echoing. I love the sense that this alien, a sound unfamiliar, an alien sound somehow brought melancholy, that the icy crags, the ice kind of overlooking the tinkled like iron. Wow, that's beautiful. So all this happening, he decides to kind of pull away from all the other kids. And he has a mission. He says, to cut across the image of a star that gleamed upon the ice. So he's looking at the ice and he sees the image of a star and he wants to skate across it. So he cuts across the star. Then he says he gave his body to the wind, and then all the shadowy banks on either side came sweeping through the darkness, spinning still. So the wind is kind of blowing him, I guess, around, and he is spinning around. That's really what he's describing. Way kids can do. Maybe if you're a good ice skater, maybe at some point you've done it, but I've never done it. But you're spinning like that. And then he says, abruptly, he leaned back upon his heels, stopped short. But the solitary cliffs kept moving. They wheeled by him with visible motion, and I stood and watched till all was tranquil as a dreamless sleep. Well, that's the spot of time, isn't it? This moment where he's been spinning around and everything's spinning with him, then he stops spinning and everything keeps moving anyway. It's a remarkable moment that he never forgot and he gave to us. And I would call that a spot of time. And he says that you can repair to these spots of time and drink from them as from a fountain. So memory images can resist any simple explanation, but those kind stimulate the imagination the most. So if I can stick to the images and remain in their mystery, and I invest feelings into images, I feel into them, we say. Contemplation lets imagination slip in as memory images become more fluid, and I discover the feelings that memory holds for me now. So everyone I'm speaking to, all of you have these spots of time, and each of them is unique for you. And we're going to do a little exercise to see if we can recover some of those spots of time, and not only recover them, but bring them to life, really visualize them. Okay. So the other thing is we kind of want to see them just as images without any story attached to them. We want to let go of any story about what happened, but just focus on the image. It's to me, it's like discovering a jewel in the mud, right? We shine them up by focusing on the moment of discovery, the new moment. So I went around, imagine me at a party, and I'm asking people, what do you have a spot of time? I was working on the book. So I was at a gallery, and an artist said when she was a little girl, she was frightened by a neighbor's German Shepherd. It was winter, and she was wearing gloves for the cold. The dog came to her, put his mouth around the glove, and gently removed it. That's the spot of time. You don't forget that moment. And you can tell, you can feel it. It's not just intellectual, right? It's specific what it feels like to have the dog's mouth around your glove and then sort of gently pulling it off of you. You're afraid, but it's the opposite of what you expected. It seems almost like a gift, I think, something quite beautiful. So there's one more from a dream client who's a very dear person. And she grew up in Mississippi. This has dogs in it too. When she was young, a dog had puppies under the house, but no one could get them out. So her father and uncle sawed a hole near the stove where the puppies were crying, and she remembers the dogs being pulled out one by one. I love that image of rescue, of birth, of relieving the anguish of the dogs, and just the beauty of seeing them emerge from the hole. That has a lot of feeling, I think. So let's see if we can find our contraption and kind of fire it up, this contraption of memory and imagination. You're going to let a moment from childhood just appear. Don't be nervous. It will appear. It can be joyful or sad or frightening or a mix, as long as the feeling is strong. You're going to use all of your senses. It might be a specific moment that has the richest feeling. Maybe it's a time when you received a birthday gift or a Christmas gift, or it could be a painful moment when a toy got lost or broken. It doesn't really matter whether the feelings are positive or negative, as long as they're strong, sensual, immediately present. So use your imaginal senses. That is, I don't want to get too technical, but they're in our brains. I'm a poet, so take it with a grain of brain. That in our brains, there are perceptual circuits, and those circuits are activated by the senses from below. So when you see or hear or smell something, they're brought up into the perceptual circuits where they're kind of edited and sorted out. And then the upper part of the brain looks down and says, oh, that's a giraffe. And so that's how we actually see a giraffe or a dog or something. So but when you're dreaming or when you're doing this exercise, you're also activating your perceptual circuits, but now you're doing it from the top down. It's not through your senses, right? You're doing it from this place where the memories are stored, and you're also stimulating your perceptual circuits. And when you dream, it feels so real, but that's why. And you can do the same thing in this exercise. So I would like you, if you don't mind, to close your eyes and just relax and breathe out. Just take it easy, relax. This is a very simple thing to do. And I want you to let a memory from childhood appear and stay with it. See if you can make it vivid as possible, and also feel the feelings that the memory carries. So let's just take a few moments to do that. Okay, when you're ready, just open your eyes. If you have a heart for it, you can put your video on. It'd be nice to see some faces. I see some, but don't be shy. I won't come through the screen or anything. But um, so, would someone like to share what came up? What spot of time you engaged with? You can use the whatchamacallit, the hand thing. Where is that? Under react at the bottom, I think. And you press the hand or whatever. So, someone like to share? Some brave individual. Mm-hmm.
Looks like Paul's ready to go.
Paul, where's Paul? I'm sorry. Oh, hi, Paul. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Let's hear it.
Um, yeah. First of all, I love your Wordsworth. I studied Wordsworth in college and
Oh,
the poets. So I was like, wow, that was a great one. Um,
yes.
the thing that came to mind for me
Yeah.
was this strange. I lived close to this dirt hill area, fields and hills, and all the kids would ride bikes. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe I was 10 years old or something, riding with my friends. And I'm coming around this dirt area, and there were kind of crags and little carved out places. And and I came around the corner and I see ahead of me this piece of what looks like white fur, a big piece of white fur, but it's probably white shag, dirty shag carpet. And it catches my eye because it's this white, dirty white amidst all this brown dirt. And
Mm-hmm.
and then the white was kind of tucked into this hollow, coming out of this hollow. And if you were just going straight ahead, you would just it would just go by you, this flash in your peripheral vision. But I turned and looked, and in this, like, as I turned and looked, there was this carved out, almost little cave-like spot, a hollow, and on this carpet were two kids, probably teenagers, making out, or they were partially undressed. And I was kind of shocked, turning my head, looking back, going, what the hell is that? What's going on? And it seemed like this weird taboo scene that I captured. And it really had this impact on me, like, wow, something dangerous and illicit and taboo is happening right there in the open. They think they're hidden away, but they're not. So that was my spot of time.
Well, I think I can only speak for myself. I feel like you took me in there really well and I could see it, but also you touched into the feelings of the surprise, shock, but also mystery, right? Like you were
Oh
not
yeah.
to really understand exactly what you were seeing, but it felt, yeah, yeah. Isn't that beautiful? Like this place in us where we're innocent in the sense that we just don't know. And through memory, we can go back to that place, which is nice. We can be sort of reborn more innocent for a moment. We can be that guy, Paul, who saw this and was able to be, didn't have the attitudes that you might have had if you saw it today. So your contraption works. You took us back with you. I think that's great. Thank you. Um, would someone else like to share since Paul broke the ice?
I
Felt
could,
good to share, didn't it, Paul? I mean, that was fun.
I could share one just to keep things rolling. Um,
Okay, sure.
I I have this spot of time with my grandfather who was really my mom's dad, and he was my favorite relative. He was very attentive. He
Right.
was you know really just saw me and you know
Mm,
and engaged, and there was this one time sitting at his kitchen table,
Mm.
he decided that, and I wasn't very old, I was 7 or 8 years old, and he decided to explain to me how an internal combustion engine works.
Ah,
And I remember he had this little pencil, and he drew on a piece of paper the cylinder and the piston and the spark plug, and here's what happens. And I was enthralled. It was like he was letting me in on the mystery of how cars go down the road and what how the power of it works. And I got it. I was like, I was just surprised at, like, oh wow, I would have had no idea that this is what was going on. But he explained it so beautifully, and I felt like I was let in on this mysterious world of how cars go down the road. So that was a nice spot of time.
it's beautiful. Take a moment and get inside James' memory for a minute. See yourself as the boy, and the grandfather's explaining the internal combustion engine, how that would feel to you. Doesn't matter what your gender is. Just see yourself as the child, the boy, with the grown up who's explaining something you didn't even know anything about, how that feels. We can use other people's spots of time. So we can participate in them. And that's a very rich thing to do. And that's a kind of exercise in empathy that yes, our experiences are personal, but they're not totally unique. They can be shared, and other people can feel them too. Okay. I'm going to do one more. Does anyone have one from very early, like your earliest strong memory as a child? Oh, Paul, I'm going to let someone else have a chance, but I'll have you in the back. You're in the warm up pen. Okay. Anybody else?
How early do you want to go? 4 or 5 work?
As early as you can go.
Well, that was about 4 or 5.
Who's
We had
speaking?
gone to an event at the Jewish Center in Richmond. I was 4 or 5.
Hmm.
And they had a raffle going.
Oh, hi. Oh, yeah.
And for some reason, even at that time, and we bought some raffle tickets, but even at that time, for some reason, I was aware that I had never ever won anything. Right?
Yeah.
Even at that time. Not that there were that many opportunities, but I just remember that thought.
Right.
And so the raffle was going on, and there were several things, I guess. And all of a sudden,
Mm.
turns out I won
Mm.
a fire truck.
Oh. Mm.
And I was, my goodness, I've won something. And it was this wonderful fire truck.
Mm. Mm.
And that incredible feeling
Mm.
of, I guess, being gifted something,
Right.
and that physical sensation.
Right.
It was
Mm.
kind of like being awe in the moment on so many different levels.
Right. And who would have guessed that awe could include a fire truck, but it does. It's how you feel it. And also, anytime you're feeling awful, you can go back and feel awe instead. You can go back to the fire truck and
Yeah.
refresh the memory. We
Oh,
return to them. This is what Wordsworth's saying, that you return to the spot of time as if repairing to a fountain of fresh water coming up out of the ground. And he took it further that when you do that, it stimulates your imagination and grows your capacity to feel more.
indeed.
So in the book, I talk about exercises you can do. It's not a big secret, but just basically, for instance, get a tape recorder and just do, I remember, just say a bunch of them. I remember there was a poet named Joe. I found some here. So he said, I remember red rubber coin purses that open like a pair of lips with a squeeze. I remember a boy who could swig down a Coke in one big gulp, followed by a long, loud belch. I remember dangerous BB gun stories about kids losing eyeballs, right? I remember turning around and around real fast until you can't stand up. So sometime, instead of watching, doing other things, just get a tape recorder, a recorder, and just go, I remember, and just see all the ones you can remember. And then when you have a nice list, go back and do what Paul and Ron did, which was to kind of amplify them and make them more immediate and more real. So beautiful. Okay, I think that's one piece that I wanted to share with you. And the Wordsworth, in his long poem about his childhood and what he calls the growth of his poetic imagination, describes many, many incidents like this that he calls spots of time. So he's very helpful, I think, in understanding what that does for us. But the main thing it does is help us become more creative, stimulate our imagination. So Maury Schwartz was mentioned, and I kind of have a special feeling about being with you folks now because, oh my goodness, it was 1995 when I met him. It was after we made a movie of my book, The Jewel and the Lotus, and I heard from the filmmaker that Maury, who lived in Newton, as did she, Newton, Mass, wanted to meet me. He'd read that book because some of you may know, and he explained it on this show Nightline, where a guy named Ted Koppel interviewed him a number of times. And of course, with all that he was going through with ALS, he had this incredible calm and wisdom to convey. It was really, really beautiful. And he actually had read my book, The Jewel and the Lotus, because he was what we call a Jubu, Jewish Buddhist. So, it makes sense. And he wanted to see me. Okay. So in order to see him, the steps were you had to go out to the grocery store and buy like lox or bagels or something. I don't know, food. Well, when I got to the refrigerator, it was already like overflowing with food. It was crazy, and I met his wife, who really exercised a lot of forbearance to suddenly have this, wisdom master in her, in her house in the suburbs. That was kind of a little hard on her, I think. But when I came in, he was in the bed, and he surprised me. He said, "I'm not interested in talking about the Jewel and the Lotus." I said, "Oh." He said, "I want to know what you're working on now." So I told him about Colette. Colette, that was mentioned, Colette Abulker Muscat. Colette was in her 80s when I met her in 1995. And my teacher, Rabbi Zalman Schachter, had kind of recommended me to her. And I remember calling her up and I said, I'd like to meet you and learn something about visualizations. And she said, I'm 86 years old. I only do terminal cases. Come over tomorrow at 12 noon. So that was her humor, I guess. So I did come over and we would sit on her porch. She had other students and she would say these kind of texts, almost like poems. They were quotes from the Psalms. I know it was a mishmash. We would close our eyes and see things. And then sometimes, she would correct them. So someone would say, well, I see a piece of paper with writing on it, but I can't read it. And so she would say, okay, now you have a pair of really strong glasses, put them on, and now you can read it. So she had this way of working with your imagery that was very creative and wonderful. So I want to share one with you now that is the one I did with Maury Schwartz that last week of his life. And it's very moving to me. And I just wanted to share it with you, not to talk about it, but for you to experience it, if you're willing to go along with me here. And here's the thing, when you're visualizing, like when you were visualizing a memory, it's not going to necessarily come out in Technicolor with Dolby sound. And, we've gotten so, I don't know, overstimulated in our media. You're in a movie and the seats are throbbing. It's like there's no room for nuance or beauty, from within us. There's a lot of beauty inside each of us. So let's do it, and then we can share what happened. So I'm going to kind of just ask you to close your eyes and breathe out slowly. Now I want you to see and feel that you are standing in front of a huge wall. Now walk up to the wall and you will see a door. Breathe out. Now you just passed through the door and you're on the other side, but in the course of that, you're now wearing new, clean clothes and you're hearing a new name. Breathe out. Sense the essence of this day, of this very moment, of this instant before you have been named. Okay, so open your eyes. And again, if you're willing to, please share whatever you experienced or share your disappointment, whatever happened. Heather, I'm going to call on you. What happened to you? You know, when students don't answer, I call on them. So I'm calling on you.
There, I am a teacher.
Then you know. Okay.
Uh, well, I saw a big wall, and I actually just really got through a big doorway today. So I have, and funny that you mentioned Maury Schwartz. I'm actually here to learn and listen to you and about the visualization, but I'm publishing a book about Maury Schwartz, so
Okay.
that's why. Yeah, and it's online, and
Hmm.
the exhibition. Well, there's a book launch, and it's on Tuesday.
Okay, great. Let's put it up in the chat so we can access it. Okay.
Oh,
If
okay. All right.
So let me come back though. You said you saw a wall. What what did it look like? What kind of wall?
Oh, big gray, nondescript, but then what? I didn't see a door, but then when you said there's a door,
Mhm.
you start looking for doors, and then you start seeing them. And I think that that's maybe what I got from it is like, something when you start something, it's so big. And I was thinking about Maury, and because trans I also him in 1995, and um, yeah, I can imagine, he's at the end of his life, and so that's where, that, it's a huge door. And I know uh, going through all of that, and not knowing what's on the other side.
Mm,
But
mm,
a teacher said it's not a wide chasm you imagine it to be. Maybe it's just a little bridge. So maybe the door, when it's open to another world, like
yeah.
the afterworld, maybe it's not as big and scary as you think it might be.
Okay. So you're bringing a lot to this, obviously, and what I would ask you to do, not right now, but to try it again, but just focus on the actual images you see without any, like you say, oh, gray wall. What does the door look like? How hard was it to open? How did it feel when you came on the other side? Uh, what was the name that you heard? What's it like not to have a name and to need a new name? These are all different moments of the visualization. So if we kind of slow it down and let it happen, it's a different way of working with the imagery. I appreciate what you're saying, of course, but
Yeah.
just it's almost overdetermined for you because obviously, yeah, you are going through a door. You have a book, and I get it, and I love you, forgive you, but
Right.
I getting at just see if you can allow yourself to have the experience without any interpretation, just the images and the
Yeah.
feelings that go with it. So just do that as a homework. That'll be just my suggestion. Um, did anyone get a new name?
Yes.
Okay. What was it?
Well, I also like the new clothes.
Okay. Tell us about your clothes. Tell
Well,
us about your new clothes.
well, it was really brief. I can't
Okay.
really describe except they felt fresh.
Uh-huh.
But the new name was Ben. And
Mm.
as I stood there in that Second, it's like, well, who am I
Right.
and where have I been?
Hmm. So when you feel into being Ben now
Mhm.
with your new clothes,
Mhm.
it all happened fast. It's really this movement. We talked about the contraption. This is a similar thing. We move from a materialistic viewpoint where a wall's a wall and a door's a door. When we move through the door, everything is a little more fluid and imaginative than it would be otherwise. And now you don't have you're not Ron anymore, at least for that moment. And you're Ben. And it's a mystery too. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to try to interpret it, but just to feel, maybe for the next hour, I'm Ben and I'm wearing these new clothes. Let's feel into being that new person.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, anyone else want to share? This is a shy group today. Okay, so all right,
I'll go.
all right, okay.
Thank you, Paul.
You're our
Uh,
go-to guy. Okay, okay. All right.
yeah, I stepped through the door. It's interesting because it was incremental. At first, I was very close to the wall, looking up, hands on the wall, touching it. And then you said, no, see a door. So I popped back,
Okay.
gray block wall, and there was a wooden door,
Mhm.
and said, open the door and step through it. And I
Mhm.
did that. And then I kind of waited for your instruction before the next visualization appeared, which was kind of odd. I'm not sure what I saw when I opened that door.
Mhm.
And then you said you're wearing a new set of clothes.
Mhm.
So I looked down and saw myself in green sleeves. It was a bright green, like almost like
Mhm.
elf and Christmas elf colored suit, which is completely absurd. And then you said, and you have a new name. And the first thing that came to me was joy. And I
Mhm.
thought, well, that can't possibly be a man's name. But then I have a friend, a male friend named Hope. So I thought, oh, I'm taking joy. Then I had this I looked down again and I got rid of the clothes and I had this new strong muscled body.
Mhm.
I was like, yeah, here
Right.
it is. So that felt really good.
Right. So joy, I mean, it's what we're seeing is that the conventional mind, the waking life consciousness with all the history, rebels, it doesn't like joy, but there's another part of you that goes, yeah, that's kind of cool. So we're really seeing the struggle to allow a more soulful and energetic and imaginative way of understanding yourself. And it's also built into it, I think, is the idea of beginning again. Um, should we do one more and then we'll have some time for questions? How's that feel to you?
Sounds good.
Okay. So I want to say that when Maury did this, he felt expansive and renewed. He told me he passed through the door and he was dressed all in white. And there was an angel singing in a green park with leafy trees and dappled sunshine. And the angel gave him a new name. So I asked him what it was, and he said Moshe. And it's kind of the Hebrew version of Moses, which is probably his Hebrew name. And I think after that, he was getting really tired. We were only together 15 minutes or so, and he was exhausted. And I leaned over and I knew I might not see him again. And he told me to unpin one of his photographs from the bulletin board as a souvenir, teaching in a college classroom. And it was very quiet. And I came to his bedside, leaned over and kissed him on his rosy forehead. We weren't strangers anymore. We both passed through the wall to the other side together. And I wished him well. So it was a beautiful experience for me. I hope it was good for him. So should we do one more? Yeah. So we'll have to go a little fast. So close your eyes, breathe out, and look around. Um, you see a mess of brown leaves scattered all over the yard. It's like a just big mess of brown leaves. It's autumn time. So you go over to the tool shed, you get out a rake, and you rake the leaves into a pile. So take your time and feel the motion of the rake. Just take a moment to see what you're feeling as you're raking, as you're making the scattered leaves into a pile. Now I want you to go back in, close your eyes. Now a single large leaf slowly drops down on the top of the pile. I want you to pick it up and warm it between your hands. As you do that, the leaf turns green. Feel the moment, feel how the leaf is coming alive in your hands. Now, holding that green leaf, think about your body, any part you'd like to bring healing to. It could be an ache, it could be a deeper pain, and just put the leaf over the surface of the body where it is. And if it needs to, let the leaf go inside to deal with whatever the problem is, and feel how this green leaf is adding life to you. And then you can feel this leaf of light traveling everywhere inside of you, bringing light inside of you. And stay with that for a while. Now, when you're ready, take the rake and put it back inside the shed and open your eyes. So I'm going to ask Marion what her experience was.
Yeah, so yeah, it felt like so many leaves, and I was raking and raking, and then there was this really big pile. And I love the moment when the one leaf is coming down. It just felt like I'm not having to do anything. I'm receiving
Mm,
this leaf. And
mhm,
then the warming of it, yeah, and just that sensory feel of warming it, and then the greenness felt like a miracle.
mm,
And my body's doing some healing right now, so it
mm,
just felt so wonderful to feel that inside. I really could feel that. It
mm,
felt very real, and I'm
mm.
still feeling it. Yeah, I think that's a beautiful um, meditation. Yeah, and yeah, and it was interesting putting the rake back. Like it's, I don't know, it's like completion. Okay.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, I like that since I'm participating in, I like these visualizations for healing because I feel like I'm participating in my own healing.
Hmm.
It's not just coming from the outside. So I
Right,
like that part. Yeah.
right. Thank you, Marion. Beautiful. And I hope that it did give you healing for what recovering from. I want to say, yes, I'm glad you mentioned the putting it away. It's always interested me. But I think it is a sense of completion. Like we started this process, we went through it, and then at the end, we have to sort of go back to waking life, to the way things actually are. But in the meantime, we had this magical, imaginative kind of interlude. That was her invention. The I'm gonna show you all something, but what I was like in in her little place, and she she said you could never record anything she said, but after you did the practice, you could write them down. So in my horrible handwriting, I've written all these down, and I've kept this notebook 30 years. So it means a lot to me to bring it. And of course, in our dream work, we have adapted that because what we do is we take a special moment of encounter and deep feeling in a dream, and then we rehearse it like a visualization in our homework. So I want to summarize and then take some questions. But basically, we experience images in lots of different ways. We experience them in memory when we were doing that. We experience them in dreams, and we also experience them in perception. All those involve imagination. Imagination's involved in all of those. And we underestimate how much imagination is in perception. We tend to think, oh, perception is like, I saw it and it happened and boom, it hit something in my brain. It's not true. So we're imagining most of the world all the time. And when we come to really understand that, then this thing of imagination no longer is segregated to, oh, you're imaginative. I used to hate it when people, because I taught poetry and they say, oh, well, you're imaginative. I'm not. You're creative. I'm not. And I thought, brother, where did you get that dumb idea? That we're all imaginative. We're all creative. We're all creative beings. But somebody somewhere along the way told us we weren't. And through memory and dreams and perception and really feeling our experiences, we can deepen and live in a more imaginative and beautiful way. So that's mostly what I had to give you. But I'd be happy to answer questions in the time we have left of any kind.
I'm going to jump in here real quick, Roger. I passed through the door and
Yes.
I got dressed up and I was like in this pretty fancy suit with a tie and I was thinking, wow, I'm going to get an awesome name here shortly. And I got Jafar, who's the villain from the Aladdin.
Is that the parrot that
No,
got?
Jafar's the villain. He's like the evil guy in
Oh,
Aladdin. And I'm like, what the heck? Is this like, am I supposed to bring out my inner villain a little bit more? Am I being too nice, you think? Or
I think so. No, I have no idea. I have no idea. I mean, that's what's so amazing. What pops in the green and
yeah, I'll be working with that one. So my colleagues need to be aware that I might be a little bit, on the tricky side here for a
which
while.
one is Jafar? I thought it was the parrot. No.
No, Jafar, I think is the like the evil sorcerer who's trying to take over the kingdom or something like that.
Hmm. Well, maybe. I'm not going to say anything. I have no idea, but I think it's kind of wonderful, and I think it's a little perverse, but it might be your sense of humor.
Possibly,
Yeah.
possibly.
Sort
Yeah.
of like, I'm not going to have this angel stuff. I'm going to be Jafar. It's like
Tricking myself a little bit. It's
maybe. I don't know. I don't.
yeah,
I
yeah.
shouldn't say. What do I know?
Yeah,
Uh,
Roger,
Anything else? Yes.
Roger, can you
Yes.
speak briefly to me, I think what you've been sharing is about feeling into the mystery, into
Mm.
the imagination. And for me, it's incredibly, incredibly important for those who are living with ALS, for those who are caregivers. But the importance of not overthinking. Okay, I don't know if you could speak to that for a minute or so.
Well, I think there's a war in all of us between imagination and interpretation. Interpretation is overemphasized that we want to find meaning. Like this is the way people approach dreams and other imaginative experiences. Like they'll read a poem in school, and instead of just saying, "Oh, I'm lost here, I'm feeling the images," they look at the bottom of the page to see what the answer is to the riddle of the poem, and then they abolish the riddle. So we're not comfortable staying in the mystery. And I think by doing these practices and just hanging out a little longer with wonder, um, we can develop our capacity to enter into what you know has been called the uh, radical amazement.
Mhm.
That
With
we
wonder
can,
and awe.
yes, and yet what I learned about that, because of course that phrase comes from Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel and it's quite widely used. But what I realized was he wasn't saying radical amazement meant some crazy radical thing like a lightning bolt landed on top of a chair or something. But actually, I just drank a glass of water. And if I can really take it in, what a wonder that there's water for me to drink and that when I'm thirsty, it feels so good. And so this is what he meant. And I think by learning to have these experiences in imagination without judgment or need to interpret, we can be a little more flexible and open to the mystery of things, they say in King Lear, right? Lear and Crowdet are going to spend in prison and take upon us the mystery of things. So we can do that. And I know, of course, that there's a lot of suffering with the body and a lot of difficulties. I still believe that this part of us we can access and we can cultivate it no matter what the circumstance. But that's my hope. I'd love to hear from folks who, are experiencing it, but that's my hope. I was kind of lucky with Maury because he was able to do it, but he was a very remarkable, highly developed dude, and had a lot of lox and bagels in his refrigerator in more ways than one. So, all right. Anything else? I'm happy to answer. Yes. Brenda, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Nick. I hear Nick. Yes. Go ahead, Nick.
Rodger, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I can.
Your patience. I'm not shy. I just type with my eyes, which means usually end the conversation. I don't want to hold others up, and I can't face my eye gaze computer to face me. So I can't show a picture of me sitting on my comfortable recliner. Thank you, Ron, with my tray can vent. I love this visualization and can feel and smell and hear the situations I am visualizing. I am that dreams and visualizations are brief windows into our consciousness, which in fact doesn't reside in the body. Therefore, it will not die when my body dies.
Nick, thank you so much for making the effort to share that. And also, I think you're touching into this deep vein of faith that we need sometimes. We need to believe this and to know it in our lives. And it feels to me like you're already kind of doing what I'm teaching. Is that correct?
I hope so.
Great. I'm always willing to listen and be patient. So it's a good thing for me because I'm an impatient person. So I need to practice. So no worries. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate it. A lot.
One of the things I was going to share a little bit was just that in CCALS's gatherings, when I have the honor of doing Women of ALS, what my soul is nourished by is the courage and the grace and the authenticity of each, and the same with Beyond ALS, when we are working with families who have just let someone go with ALS and are still trying to redesign life.
Right.
The Beyond ALS is gorgeous, and you'll remember one of the things we do in our honey grief retreats is the prompt I remember, and it's such a simple thing to spend 3 minutes watching the river of memory have its way with us, and then what emerges in terms of emotion and also integration, that this isn't doing work for others only for the service of doing it with others. It's to notice the solidarity and the empathy of our own growth as it's woven and interwoven with the courage of others. And I feel that really deeply.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. And thank you for the work you do, and Ron and James and everyone else. It's really important work. It means a lot to me to be here today. I hope you can tell that. Feel like kind of a closing of a circle. And who knew? I didn't know back then that I would ever be here with you guys today, and that maybe I would have something to bring. So I'm just touched that I had the opportunity, and I thank you all.
Finally put your rake away, Rodger.
Yeah, better than stepping on it. Yeah, I'm putting it away. It's that teaching of hers. She was a very methodical person, and it was something she was trying to teach me about finishing, putting a finish on things.
Ron, any closing thoughts?
It looks like Robin Benoit wants to come in. I keep seeing Robin kind of trying to come in.
Yes, Robin.
Yeah, you're unmuted, Robin, if you want to.
Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. I was probably um anyway. Um I had a question that I was trying to formulate and um about these visualizations and if there's a timing to them, like the first one that we did about um going through the door
Mm-hmm.
felt like something you would do with someone that was closer to death, maybe, but maybe not. And I guess that's my question. Is there timing to it, or can we
Right.
practice these things with people even in more beginning stages of ALS?
I think it's something to learn from a teacher, and
Mm-hmm.
subtle because you can make mistakes and
Mm-hmm.
be bad. So um, there, let me find the chat and put in a title and a couple names of people who are teaching this. How do I do that? Here we go. So there's a book, I don't know if it's still in print, called Healing Visualizations by Gerald Epstein. Gerald was a student of Colette's. And then there's a teacher named Catherine Shaneberg, who is also a student of Colette's, and she has the School of Images in New York, and they work with people. And, I would say Gerald passed, but I think someone, Marion told me that his widow is teaching, right?
That's right. Yes, I worked with her once, and
Yep.
she's
Okay.
continuing the work. Yeah.
Right. So Catherine is the one who actually has a whole school around it in New York City, but it's online as well. But I think Robin's observation was very apropos. Um, Obviously, I wanted to do that one because it related to Maury. Um, on the other hand, the whole idea of having a new life at any moment is important. Excuse me. And so, in that sense, the passing through could be. See, it's up to you partly how you experience it. So if you happen to be in an extreme situation, then you might feel it that way. But on the other hand, you might also just feel it as a process through which you can renew yourself and get rid of your old name. And if you're now Ben, I don't know, you might be a whole different dude, right? And if you're wearing green or your name's Joy, I think you have a whole different set of responsibilities and activities. So it can work. But anyway, but I think your observation was astute, and this is really more or less introductory, obviously, in the time frame. And
Sure.
the book Healing Visualizations is divided to all kinds of situations, and one of them was if you have anxiety, you have a rope and you untangle the rope, that's it. You just sort of see yourself with a twisted up rope and you untangle it. And just doing that as a visualization can relieve anxiety. She had teachings around headaches, cancer, heart conditions. However, she always said, I cannot heal you with these visualizations. She was very clear about that. These won't heal you, but they'll put the imagination on the side of your healing instead of your fantasy working against your healing, your doomsaying or, oh no, the worry and anxiety. So I think that's really helpful because imagination is such a deep part of us. Why not get it enlisted as part of the healing process? So I think that was her idea. I wish I could tell you, we could do an hour just about her because she was a fascinating character who she and her brother liberated Algiers for the American army and received a croix de guerre from the French government. And it just, she told me she was a descendant of King David. I don't know if it's true. Anyway, she was pretty amazing. But it's in my book, The History of Last Night's Dream, if you're curious at all.
Yeah, thank you, Rodger.
Thank
Robin, excuse me, what I would add, for all of us, I think it's really important that we become familiar with this type of work ourselves, to be comfortable within our own bodies. And if you're wanting to introduce it to a loved one who is living with ALS,
right,
that's why it's important to become really familiar with it and comfortable within ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I've learned to do is if I'm introducing something to a new idea or a concept, teaching, learning, is always asking permission. And this is something, it's just the art of language and seeing how that works. So I would suggest checking out the resources that Rodger just shared.
Right.
So
in Seeing the Life of Things, there is a whole chapter on spots of time and suggestions for how to find your own. For me, I found that really valuable. What were really not my memory, like he hurt me or she neglected me or whatever the story we tell about ourselves, but just, oh, yeah, one day I was in first grade looking at the reader and I saw the word IS and I said, eyes. I remember that moment. I was 5 years old and I know I was wrong, but it was kind of a magical moment for me. So by gathering these moments from your life and being able to return to them, I think it builds strength in us. What kind of person are we?
Beautiful.
Rodger, I have one more thing. One
Thank
thing I'm curious about. I assume others on this call have ALS. When I dream, which is frequent, I have the disease, but my body is fully healed. Do others experience this?
Nick says that when he dreams, I think he said he has the disease, but also his body is floating free. Did I hear you right?
Nick, repeat what you said, please. Hit replay.
Rodger, I have one more thing. One thing I am curious about. I assume others on this call have ALS. When I dream, which is frequent, I have the disease, but my body is fully healed. Do others experience this?
Mm. Well, that's a good question. Anyone have a response to that?
Paul?
I experience that I have something, but suddenly I'm climbing stairs and I'm thrilled that I can climb stairs again, not really knowing that I have a specific disorder, but that now I can do a thing that I couldn't do.
Right.
So that is a recurring dream for me. Something was wrong, but I'm doing it. All right, I'm back.
Right. And when you have that experience, or when Nick has his experience, when you wake, is there a feeling associated after the dream?
Well, it's not often. In fact, I don't think it's happened where I've awakened right after the dream, but I wake and I remember dreams or whatever, and those have stuck with me. And I try to wake up every day going, okay, Here we go. Let's go, Dave. Maybe I'm going to step out of bed and just walk to the bathroom instead of, crawl to the bathroom. So,
Well, I think there is a part of us in the imagination that is separate from what others would call the facts. And the imagination is also a fact. The fact is, human beings, we have the capacity to imagine other situations. And by cultivating that, we can find feelings of joy and, that might be harder to come by if we're totally in a, rational frame of mind. I had a dream where I was standing on a sidewalk and it was a street. And then I looked down and the sidewalk turned into a river. I mean, the street turned into a river, and my daughter, as a 3-year-old, was swimming in the river. And then it turned back into a street. And I think for me, that has something to do with we can see things in two different ways. We can see, oh, that's a street, that's hard, it's solid. But in imagination, it could also be this river. And so we have that capacity. And I do think the images in our dreams, if we're not interpreting them, but just feeling them, can carry a healing medicine. It feels good to be able to be free and walk to the bathroom, and kind of a blessing, I think, if we value it. To me, imagination is just as real as anything else.